Hi, this is Jordan Hart, and this is the Classroom Changes assignment. I have learned so much from my educational advisor, Donna Curry, a 6th and 8th grade English language arts teacher at Douglas Middle School. She said her classroom has been through constant changes throughout her 7 years of teaching. Curry said that her first year was extremely hard. It took me 2 years to get a teaching job after I graduated, she said. And then we changed to Common Core standards. So it was extremely hard for me because I didn't have that teaming with my colleagues. I didn't seek help and I was kind of on my own. According to Curry, it wasn't until she became more familiar with the standards and with the grade levels that she became the teacher she wanted to be. I sucked my first year, Curry said. I didn't know what the students knew and didn't know. I didn't know what I should require of them. I helped the students too much. I didn't challenge them like I should have. Asking for help. Curry said she wished she did a lot of things different. For starters, she wished she would have sought advice. I was so embarrassed to ask anyone or show weakness, she said. Looking back, I now know that it was just silly. Teaming is so important. When you are teaching, it is important to ask others what is working and what is not. You can play off each other's ideas and make them better. Curry said that this would have helped her in the beginning. She said that she spent so many hours trying to figure things out. I would write and overthink things, she said. I could have made things easier on myself and better for my students. Student relationships. When it comes to students' needs, Curry is constantly adapting. But according to Curry, it's all about the relationships. The more you get to know the students throughout the years and build a relationship, the better, she said. It sometimes takes the whole year to really figure them out. It all is about adapting how you respond to them. You learn how to react. You have to be willing to change yourself. Be aware of that. Sometimes it isn't the students, but you that needs to change. Curry said that it is important to really get to know those students so you can adapt your teaching to what they need to learn. There are a lot of layers to learning. Each student needs something different, she said. Just because one thing worked with students 1 year doesn't mean that it's going to work the next. You have to be adaptable. You have to be able to reflect and say to yourself, whoa, that didn't work. And then you have to say to yourself, why? You have to ask yourself that. Changes in instruction. To adapt to students' needs, Curry also changes her instructional strategies, and that means staying up to date with technology. Students also use technology in the classroom, she said, and that means they love learning in that way as well. So I added a new element of technology almost every year. I make sure I'm able to tweak it to what my students need to get to their learning goals. Though Curry loves integrating technology into the classroom, she warns teachers not to fall into the next big fad if something is already working. If something is really working in your classroom, she warns, don't change it. Being a student teacher in a middle school classroom really made me realize how much things have actually changed. Back in the day, I know, things were different. Though I'm only 28, there has been a lot of changes in the English language arts classroom since I was in high school. For starters, there was little to no use of technology. I don't remember ever even seeing a PowerPoint in our small schools. I remember copying down notes and my teacher would write down from the board. The only time we used technology is when we had an essay in high school, and my English teacher would check out the computer lab, which was very outdated, for us to write our essays and research topics. The classroom dynamic was also very different. It was mostly lectures. Teachers would lecture and students would listen. I don't remember a lot of group work or higher level thinking. Because it was a small school, there was also little to no collaboration with other teachers that I knew of. My dad is a teacher at the high school that I worked at, and I remember him always complaining about how he felt on his own all the time. So the teachers just stuck to their content. The English teacher at my small school literally taught grades 6 through 12. Also, I remember reading and doing work out of a textbook constantly. All of these aspects of how I learned are very opposite of the way I want to teach. In my future classroom, I want to devote as much of the class time to academic activities as I possibly can. I want to engage students consistently in activities that require them to think as they read, write, and discuss. According to Hattie's book, Visible Learning, in doing this I am producing an environment that promotes higher achievement. I am a huge fan of doing mini lessons and cutting students loose to work and learn on their own in groups afterwards. According to Hattie, effective teachers do explicit teaching of skills, and this teaching includes modeling and explaining, and this is followed by guided student practice. Like Curry found out, I also want to have high expectations for my students. I want them to know that I believe in them and that they can reach these high expectations. Hattie confirms this by saying that effective teachers have high expectations and increase the academic demands on their students. Hattie said that from the first day of school, effective teachers communicate high expectations for students to self-regulate and take charge of their behavior and academic engagement. As a future educator, I want to have a hands-on, hands-off approach. I want the students to be hands-on with their work as much as possible, but in order for me to do that, I would have to be hands-off. I want to be able to step back from what I may consider to be my role and act as a guide or facilitator to students. I know that is how I learned best, so that will be the same for a lot of my students. Also, I want to be able to differentiate instruction. I want to be able to tailor instruction to meet the individual needs of my students. I want to be able to differentiate content, process, products, the learning environment, and the use of ongoing assessment and flexible grouping to have a successful approach to instruction. I already have a ton of chairs that will help differentiate the classroom environment. Again, it is important to remember that we don't all learn the same, and we have to cater to everyone, not just to one group of students. I also want to be the teacher that will change to better my students. Hattie said that though teachers are willing to change, they are sick of it. I want to have that openness and willingness to be wrong. I want to be the teacher that adopts any innovation means, even though that might mean discontinuing a familiar practice for me. Next year, I will be starting a new adventure by teaching 7th grade English Language Arts at South Middle School in Rapid City. I hope to put these words into action and be the best teacher I can possibly be, even though that means I'm going to have to make some changes.